Well, hi, everybody. I'm Rick Edelman. Thanks so much for joining us for this really fascinating conversation we're about to have. Welcome to this webinar that's going to share with you a new, really easy, powerful way to add client value, and that's a digital vault. And as we get into this conversation, you're going to discover something really cool and simple that you really want to pay a lot of attention to. I'm really glad you're joining us today and helping us understand what we're talking about. I'm glad to bring on here Glenn Shimkus. He is the CEO of Presidio. Glenn, I'm really glad that you're with us today.
Excellent. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Glenn's in Washington, D.C., where he's been spending the week with AARP. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But Glenn, what I want people to have a sense of your background. You've been a tech entrepreneur throughout the bulk of your career, way back with the National Association of Realtors, and very importantly with DocuSign. So tell us, in fact, a little bit about Presidio and what that company is, what led you to create it.
Well, it really starts. My entire career has been focused in one area. I consider myself a document and content management nerd. Like that is what I've really been focused on. And it's allowed me to have a lot of perspective over about 30 years. And it really comes down to, right, we're in the knowledge age, right? And in the information worker. And so much of what we have today in terms of value is locked up in documents and information. And so my career has been dedicated to helping Fortune 500 companies and professionals manage documents, information, right? How do you collect it? How do you keep it safe? How do you extract value from it? And, my first part of my career was working for Fortune 500 companies. The last probably 18 years, 20 years has been focused entrepreneurial. And what happened is my last company that I started in 2009, I started because my wife's a realtor and I saw documents drive real estate transactions. Didn't see anything to help her be more efficient and effective digitally, not just printing documents, but being able to have them on, the iPhone in the early years. Started a company to help her in that facet. Ended up selling that company to DocuSign as their first acquisition back in 2013, and honestly started working with DocuSign 2009, 2010 when they had about 50 employees. But what happened through that journey is I was using that product while I was still at DocuSign to manage my own personal documents and information, powers of attorney, right? They're no good unless you have access to them when you need them and can share them securely. And so I ended up leaving DocuSign right before they went public because I was like, listen, if I have a problem managing my own documents and information for my family and I, my guess is others do too. And I started off on the journey, realized that we as families and individuals have the same problem I've been helping companies address. And so Presidio was born out of that realization. And so we're here to help people, specifically families and individuals, not businesses, through businesses, but help them, collect, keep safe, securely share. And here's a kicker: make sure everything is successfully transitioned upon one's passing.
So we're going to talk a lot about all of this in today's conversation. It's a conversation that really involves two major groups, and we've got them both on this audience with us today. We have financial advisors who are helping their clients managing all of those documents, and in fact, the advisors are responsible too often of creating a lot of that paperwork with new account applications and brokerage statements and insurance policies and you name it, and individual investors as well, the clients of those advisors, but also those who would call themselves DIY, do-it-yourself investors. So we've got two different audiences here. Glenn and I are going to be talking to both audiences all at the same time, and you'll get a sense, if you're one or the other, you'll get a sense of where the areas of interest are on the other side. And you said something really fascinating, Glenn, that I just wanted to highlight. You personally recognized a need for something yourself and figured other people probably had that need too, and that means there might be a business there.
Yeah.
That's exactly the journey that Gene and I had in the creation of our financial planning practice and DAC and the Truth About Your Future, of recognizing that exact thing. That's the basis of innovation in this country. I see a problem I'm having. Odds are pretty good everyone else is having that problem. If I can figure it out for me, it's applicable for everyone else. and
Right.
there's an entrepreneurial opportunity there. And this is why, by the way, just from a disclosure perspective, so you understand the nature of what we're doing here. This isn't an infomercial. I'm an investor in Glenn's company, Presidio. When I had the opportunity to meet Glenn some time ago, I had the same reaction that was what his formation was in the creation of this company, realizing this is a big problem in the investment advisory arena. This is a huge opportunity for advisors to create value add to clients, and I wanted to help Glenn build his company. He's really strong in the fintech space and not as experienced in the financial advisory space, and I thought I'd be able to be helpful there, and that's why we're here today. You are in Washington, D.C., as I mentioned, because you're at a series of meetings with AARP. Elaborate on that. Talk about what you're doing with AARP.
Yeah, we were very fortunate. We joined they have something called the Age Tech Collaborative. And as you can imagine, AARP, 1 in 3 people in the US over the age of 50 are members of AARP, right? 38 million members. And they're really focused on helping people age in place, longevity economy, caregivers, in so many really, really important topics. And they also are really focused on how to help young companies identify opportunities, gain traction in the space. And so they formed something called the Age Tech Collaborative. And quite frankly, right, AARP should own being a leader in that space, just like the National Association of Realtors has an accelerator focused on real estate. AARP has theirs. And we were fortunate to be in the program. And as we went through it, they approached us and said, listen, we think our members and broadly have a need for something like this. We're really focused on continuing to evolve and transform digitally while meeting the needs of our consumers, not just yesterday, but in the future. And so we went through a year of testing with them, and I'm super excited about 5, 6 weeks ago now, we launched, and we're the first ever product where AARP is actually selling the AARP Digital Vault powered by Presidio to their members, and starting to educate members and helping us penetrate the market. Because whether you're a caregiver, it's financial wellness. I live in Florida, disaster preparedness, right? Hurricane season. There's this underlying need, and Presidio and now the AARP Digital Vault can help people in all of these areas as a foundation with their planning and preparation.
And never before AARP has struck such a deal with an outside vendor.
No, we are first that they are actually, it is ARP's logo on it. They are, they handle all the billing, tightly integrated with APIs back and forth. So you register and sign up through AARP. And it's their first what they call an add-on to membership. And so we're breaking new ground with them. And I have to say, they're just an incredible organization. And I mean, truly super passionate about helping their members.
That's quite an endorsement coming from an organization the likes of AARP. So that's a really big deal. And they're not alone. You're also working with Clear.
Yeah, we're doing some really interesting things with them because, right, it's all about trust. It's about security and privacy, and that's at the cornerstone of what we do. And I learned that early with DocuSign, right? If I went to you, Rick, 15 years ago and said, you want to put an offer on a property, I'm going to send you an email. It's from something called DocuSign. You're going to type your name on the computer and on the signature line, and you're like, okay, hold up, right? Who are they? What is it? Is my bank going to accept it? Is it legal? And it was this new category, e-signature, but it was also about trust. And so for us, it's working with trust. And so, Clear is one of the absolute leaders in this country about identity and security and verification. And so, when we do things to verify, like someone has passed and we need to release a vault, like we don't have it today, but we're working on that partnership where, as a part of the vault release process, it starts with verifying your identity using an industry leading recognized solution like Clear.
I've got a bunch of questions for Glenn that I'll be peppering him with, but I invite you to offer your questions too. Just go to the Q&A box here on your Zoom screen. I'll be taking a look at the questions you're posting there and tossing them up to Glenn as we engage in our conversation. I want to go back, Glenn, and just to the very beginning of this to help people understand exactly what we're talking about. When you say digital vault, the preservation and distribution of documents, Um, why is that important? I mean, everybody's got documents. We've got them, stuffed in a desk drawer or in a filing cabinet at home. Why do we need to do this digitally in an online environment? And if we do that, why is this different from simply cloud storage?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with like, I'm going to raise my hand. I have Dropbox. I have OneDrive. I mean, we all do, right?
Yeah,
So here's where we start being different. First of all, we're not trying to replace Dropbox. We're not trying to replace 1Password. Um, First of all, when you look at a Dropbox or a great solution, I still use it today. I have thousands, if not tens of thousands of folders and tens and hundreds of thousands of documents. If something happened to me tomorrow, how would it's a needle in a haystack, right? So when we look at that, what we do is they're great for documents, for storing them, keeping them safe, and syncing them across devices. And they're fantastic at that. But here's where we start becoming different. First of all, sharing. This is your most important sensitive information. And 99% of the time, while you can send a secure link from any of these cloud storage solutions, what do you do when you need to get something from me to you? You attach it to an email, right?
yeah,
Because it's the easiest way for me to get it to you. And then
right.
if you do share via one of these cloud storage solutions, and I said, okay, Rick, what did you share with me? Did I look at it? And what else through your cloud storage provider do I have access to? There's no answer, right?
Right.
So we allow you to identify exactly what you share with someone. You're sharing with Rick Edelman, wealth advisor, not Rick751@gmail.com, right? So there's some context.
Yeah.
I can go to you and see exactly what I've shared with you from my phone. The moment you would access my vault, I get a notification on my phone that says Rick accessed your vault from Virginia, United States. And in one click, I can block your access if I'm like, well, I haven't talked to Rick in a year. What does he have access to? Or it said Rick accessed your vault from Santiago, Chile. And I'm like, gosh, I just talked to Rick and he didn't mention that. I'm going to block your access until I can confirm. So we do a lot with sharing, both today and down the road. We have something called a key holder. So we verify if a vault owner has passed, and then we'll release the vault in its entirety to whoever the vault owner said, I want to have access to it. So sharing's big. But here's another really big one. Your life involves more than just documents, right? You have things that you value, both financially and sentimentally. You've got stock portfolio. You may have a watch, a house, a boat. We help you manage what do you have of value. We help you manage who the key people are in your life, because it's great that you have who your physician is, who your wealth advisor is, who your trust advisor is on your phone. If you lose your phone or you're not here and I am your brother or sister or son and I need to know that, that's why you need to put the contacts in there. And then lastly, and this is a big one that's so overlooked, is we help you manage the where. Where do you have documents? Because in most states, if you go to probate as the attorney and say, John Smith passed away, here's a digital copy of his vault, they'll say, great, or a digital copy of his will, great, go home, find the original, come back. Or if I'm selling you a car and I say, hey, Rick, here's a PDF of the title, I think you'd go, no. And, so we help you identify where do you have original documents, where do you have valuables, where do you have accounts, and then we allow you to neatly tie it all up. So here's a digital copy of my will, here's the attorney who wrote it, here's the safe where it's stored, and they're all linked together.
There's also something that you kind of mentioned in passing, that the easy, simple, convenient way for people to move money or move documents around is to just put that document into an email.
Yeah.
So they go to the trouble of securing it in a cloud device like OneDrive. But then when you want to send it to somebody, you just put it in an email attachment, and email is the least secure
Yeah.
method for sending anything over the internet. So all of your efforts of securing this just got wiped out by doing this in email.
Yeah.
Your solution prevents that from becoming something you have to do.
Right. And I'll tell you, I mean, we can discuss that. Here's a great confirmation. DocuSign, who I have a 10-year journey with in being a partner, selling a company, then a formal advisor to, and now a partner again. Companies that use DocuSign realize, I mean, they're the number one e-signature solution in the world. they're the most safe, secure, compliant solution out there. And what used to happen is you go through a bank opening process or an account opening, and you go through and keep everything safe and secure in DocuSign. And then what would happen is they send a PDF of that opening document attached to the email after it's fully signed. And you
Yeah.
see most companies don't do that now, right? And
Right.
so I sign something and I'm told it's done, but how do I get to it? Right. And that's why we partnered with DocuSign. We were actually a launch partner with them last summer with their App Center. So you literally can take something that is signed by a consumer, bring Presidio into your DocuSign environment. So when the consumer signs, the client signs, it's automatically and securely archived. Because here's the key for the consumer, signing a document is often the start of the journey for them, and they need to share it. They need access to the HUD-1 or settlement statement next, April for their taxes. And so, we want to be that solution. And the key is, and I just urge everyone, whatever you do, don't send your information via text and email. It's just we live in a world of identity theft and fraud, and you don't help yourself when you share that in that manner.
So you cited the key word that a lot of questions we're getting from folks who are watching this webinar, and the key word is security. How does Presidio keep the data safe, and how do people know that Presidio is not doing something nefarious with the access to the data?
Yeah, I mean that as you can imagine is like a 2-hour webinar right there, right? It starts with we have an incredible group of individuals behind us, right? The former chief information security officer who built DocuSign from startup to public company is on my board of directors and has been from day one. Her deputy CISO is a advisor to the company. My chief technology officer worked at the NSA equivalent in the United Kingdom, and his job literally, not could be, literally was to protect nuclear launch codes. We've got the head of one of the largest cybersecurity consulting firms in the world as a advisor. We have the head of privacy, one of the most senior privacy execs at PayPal as an investor and advisor. We work with the CISA, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and have been from day one. They try and scan our environment for vulnerabilities. We do a ton, and there's so much involved in that topic. But from day one, before I even formed the company, I went to experts long and far and said, how do we do this? And if we build this, can we keep it safe? And it's an expensive proposition building a company. And it's a commitment, and it's not done. It's an ongoing, but everything we do, from how we hire employees to who's invested to our systems to log in, and even the things like I talked about, the moment someone's in your vault, you get a notification and you could block their access temporarily and instantly if you feel like it.
So I mentioned at the top that we have both individuals paying attention to this as well as financial advisors. So talk to the advisors who are watching this. How do you work with advisory firms? How do they provide this service to their clients?
Well, I think fundamentally there is a very well-known understanding right now that this is sensitive information and they need to protect it on behalf of their client. And so what happens today is a lot of firms have a system, and they'll have, there's great financial solutions out there that'll have a vault component where there's two spaces. One, I as the client can add documents and it's my private space, or then there's a shared space that you or I could add documents and we could see. And companies go through the entire process. They find the right solution, they implement it, and then the adoption just isn't there. Because what happens is, from my perspective as the client, it's another place I have to go, right? Another login I have to remember, which, by the way, I'm forced to change every quarter. And so it just doesn't get used. And then it's just one slice of my documents and my life. And it's just documents, remember. It's not what do you have of value? Who are the key people? And so we're broader. And so we work with law firms. We work with advisory firms where they can provide Presidio to their clients, either branded as their solution, like we are with AARP, the AARP Digital Vault powered by Presidio, or as Presidio, and they can recommend it. And that's the way they share securely. They know who's done what. They have full record of it. And then from my perspective as the client, the consumer, I have all of my stuff, and then I can decide what I'd like to share with you versus my insurance agent versus my trust advisor versus my banker, for example.
One of the big issues you cited, it's so true, is the pain in the butt element. Is the fact that when there is this thing created, the client has the burden of uploading all the data, and
Right.
that's just it's like filling out taxes. It's like, who wants to do that?
Right.
At least with taxes, you got a legal deadline that forces you to do it. But this I'll get around to a category. But by partnering through the advisory practice, the advisor can upload the data on behalf of the client. I mean, it's the
Right.
advisor who made you fill out the new account form and open the brokerage account and dealing with trade confirms and blah, blah, blah. The advisor's got all that in paper, so let the advisor upload it. That's the advisor's job. And
Yeah.
that makes it simple, painless, automated for the client and a true client value add service.
Well, I can't stress enough how important secure sharing is a value proposition of what we do. When I looked at the industry, I did 2 years of diligence on the space before I formed the company, right? I did a lot of work. And, part of the problem is I'm not sure there's a single person, if I ask the question right now, who on this session is not busy in their professional or personal life? Everyone's going to raise their hand, right? We don't have time. And so what we're trying to do is share the workload through others do the work, which is your financial advisor, right? I just set up a Slack, my estate firm down in Texas, and sent them everything. Like I had to get everything notarized and all that, and they dropped it into my vault. I didn't have to say, okay, email it to me. Wrong. And then I'll do the work. They basically put it in. I got notified. And then we have the nobody does the work strategy. You sign it with DocuSign and it gets automatically dropped in, because it's this, like, part of the problem with storage solutions in general is sharing. Who did you share with? What did you share with them? And you can go item by item. We're literally the only ones that I can say, no, the context isn't my will, who has access, who's looked at it. It's Rick, my wealth advisor. What does Rick have access to? What has Rick looked at? And so you're always in control, and that's really important. And again, it's not just today, it's down the road if something happens to you, to make
Yeah.
sure all of this is securely shared.
Yeah, we just went through this with my mother-in-law. She sold her house, bought a new one closer to one of her kids, my sister-in-law. And so I was and Jean were heavily involved in those transactions. We're remote, we're 1,000 miles away from her. Jean's sister is around the corner, and her brother's an hour away. So we used Presidio to handle the entire transaction. All the paperwork associated with selling the one house, you're dealing with the real estate agent, you're dealing with the HOA, you're dealing with the title settlement company, and everything in the bank, everything associated with selling. Simultaneously, she was buying. Now we
Mhm.
got a real estate agent, mortgage company, title settlement company, the new HOA. All that paperwork was just funneled simply and easily into Presidio, into a vault for mom. And then Gene realized, well, there's a whole lot of other stuff going on. We've got to turn on the water and the electricity and cable service. We have furniture deliveries that are being made, purchases and deliveries to schedule. How do we keep all the siblings, mom's 4 children, how do we keep them all associated and involved? Some of them are doing it remotely on a financial basis, others are doing it physically in town, making sure all this happens because mom's in her 80s and we can't, we don't want to dump all this on her. And Presidio made it incredibly simple and easy for instant communication,
Yep.
everybody having access to everything, knowing what's going on. Nobody has to rely on memory or, oh, I
Right.
forgot to tell so and so. It was very simple and easy. And now it's a permanent site that will be there forever. And when mom finally passes, God forbid, not for a long time, everybody has access to all the legal
Yep.
documents, the deed, and you name it. And so I don't know of an easier way that we would have been able to manage this whole process.
Yeah, and what we want people to understand is, like, listen, I know when you look at this, you could go, oh, like deer in the headlights, overwhelmed. Like, we have built this so it's highly mobile. If you have something you got in the mail that's 3 pages, scan it with your phone with the Presidio app, add it to your vault. If you're in front of a safe, you can add that, we call that a place. Um, do it in bits and chunks, right? Just little bits, because here's the reality. Like, I am the consummate organized person, the consummate planner. When I go on trips, I've got a checklist and I have different things. If I'm on a golf trip or, for going on a family trip, like I have different sections and check boxes. And I'll give you an example. Like we just don't know what's going to happen and when. My wife and I celebrated our 30th anniversary last October. We went on overseas for 2 weeks. 4 days into the trip, I woke up and I got a series of calls and texts from my sister. My mom had a serious medical issue, and she's okay now. She's doing okay. Taken by ambulance, heart issue, needed immediate care. And my mom had given me a paper folder with her power of attorney, advanced medical directives, a funeral missalette booklet, and with notes of this is what I want down the road. And I had all of that in a safe 8,500 miles away. And I woke up and, documents for my mom wasn't on my travel checklist, but they were all here. And I woke up and I was able to instantly share with my sister those documents and then securely send them to the hospital. And I was able to help in an important situation, because at the end of the day, we just don't know what's going to happen and when. And you're going to need those documents for your mom next year when it's tax time, right? I mean, and then when you go to sell the property. And so these things like are so intertwined and always needed. And the key is, like, I'm in DC. I don't know what someone's going to need from me today, tomorrow, but I'm prepared. And, I have that peace of mind because of, my Presidio vault.
And the best part is it's digital, so you don't have to worry about a natural disaster, a wildfire, or a hurricane or tornado destroying your home and the contents, the documents that are being stored there.
Yeah.
This will survive that because it's stored digitally.
Well, and I think, there's always a natural concern of, can I put this in one place or can I put it online? And what we all need to understand fundamentally, there's risk in not putting it there. What happens when there's a home theft is they look for your hard drive, they look for your iPad, your computer, not just for the device, but for the information on it, right? How many wildfires have we seen? Not just California, but North Carolina, Florida. We're at the start of hurricane prep season. We've had, I think, I just shared some data, it was either 40 or 60% more tornadoes this year than the average for the last decade. This is affecting everybody. You don't know you're going to be in the path of a hurricane and it'll change. You don't know there's a tornado coming. You don't know there's, we have friends, very close friends, that woke up in January like any other day of the week and went to bed homeless because of the Pacific Palisade fires. And so there's risk with not doing this. And then if you're not by your information and you need it, a power of attorney is useless if something's needed in an emergency and you can't get to it, or others don't know that it exists. So yes, like I understand and recognize the risk, but that's why companies like AARP and others have done their homework on us, and we've invested very heavily in security and compliance. But there is risk in not doing it. I mean, $70 billion is held by the states today and growing in unclaimed property because someone didn't know there was a life insurance policy or a safe deposit box or a storage unit. And so the risk is anywhere, but it's not this notion of it's in my safe, it's under my mattress, it's protected, because that's just not the case.
Talk about pricing.
So we are priced at $120 a year or $12 a month. So we think, we actually looked at not just like other similar type of solutions. We looked at everything from Spotify to Disney Plus. And, it's funny because the reaction for most people, as soon as I say 120, they think 120 a month, that's actually not that bad because this is my most important stuff. And that's not it. It's $120 a year.
And how does it work with financial advisors? Who pays that bill?
So we are set up two things. One is for financial advisors, we actually have what we call a light or an essentials plan that we can offer. So you can offer a light limited version for people to get started for free at a lower cost. And then if they upgrade to the full, you can either cover part or all of that cost. We can work with you however you'd like. We've set it up so if you want to cover all of it, none of it, and just recommend it, we can do that. If you want to cover the basic and then let them cover the client cost, cover the cost of the upgrade, we can handle that as well. So we've built in the flexibility of how you'd like to work with your client. And we quite frankly have financial advisors and law firms that run the gamut of doing both. And some even have it branded and some don't have it branded. So we've built flexibility into this.
So talk about AARP, because I imagine some people are saying, well, should I go to Presidio and buy this on my own for $120 a year, or should I go to AARP and buy it through them?
Well, with AARP, we have a special relationship and we're doing some really unique things where, again, we talked about ease of use and value. Like when you do things through AARP, we're going to get to the point where things are automatically added to your vault. You do nothing, AARP does nothing, and it just magically happens. So there is going to be benefit of going to AARP. And if you're an AARP member, log in today. And if you go to the My Account section, you'll see an add-on for the AARP Digital Vault. You can do that today if you're an individual and want to do that, or if you're even an advisor and want to try it. Or you can come to our website. You can also contact me and we can work on a plan for your company to offer it with training, et cetera. So, the great news is, like when you're a younger company, you have lots of flexibility and you understand like you need to have that because people are going to want to work in different ways. And I've seen that through my career. I've built this. Our channel is through businesses. We're not necessarily you can sign up directly as a consumer. We have that, but our focus is through partnerships like what we're doing with AARP, financial services firms, et cetera.
In addition to the questions people are posting right now in the Q&A box, a bunch of folks sent questions when they registered for this event. And a lot of the questions, Glenn, were comparison questions. How does Presidio compare to eMoney, to Proton, to Dropbox, to LastPass? Talk about the competitors in the space. What makes you different?
Yeah, all of those are focused in an area. Like, even if someone wants to continue to use 1Password, again, I'm the founder CEO of this company. I use 1Password, but I've moved all of my most important passwords and accounts into Presidio, even things like my Disney Plus account, because when my kids text me at midnight on Friday asking did someone change the password, I'm not up. They know to go into Presidio now. But we also do things like you can identify 1Password as a place. So you can say, listen, I've got some stuff here, but you can also go over here because, I've got 1,300 passwords from throughout my career in 1Password. I'm not moving them all, but my important stuff, one by one, I've been moving over time. You can continue to use Dropbox, and I have Dropbox. All my important files, identity, tax, financial statements, insurance policies, trust and estate are now in Presidio, but I have lots of other stuff in Dropbox, and Dropbox is a place, right? I've said, here's my important documents in Presidio, but if you need other things, look to a Dropbox. So, I've seen how we different from that, like a FidSafe or an eMoney the Vault. Like, again, that's just documents. It's not what you have of value, who are the important people in your life. And you're not going to put like me as a consumer in my vault for someone else that I'm offered. I'm not going to put stuff on my cryptocurrency holding or my car title, right? That, it's just now that one stream of what I'm working with that one company on. And by the way, people have many of those, dozens or hundreds of those relationships. And it's just more and more out there. So what we try and do is move your important stuff into Presidio. We'll help you with that. And then point to the rest of it if it's out there.
A lot of advisors use portfolio reporting systems like Orion and InvestNet, Black Diamond, et cetera. Does Presidio coordinate with those?
We don't, but we have APIs where we can ingest those securely on the back end and put them into the client vault. Like, we're not going to touch any of the data from, like what investments you have, how are they performing, but any of the documentation on that, we can automatically kind of ingest, just like what we did with the DocuSign partnership starting last year. So we do have APIs to bring those things in from various systems. Some of those we have, some of those we could build, but as you know, with technology, those can go pretty quickly.
Talk about compliance. Some of the advisors watching this are, compliance is always front of mind for everybody. How do we do this within compliance approval?
Yeah, there's work to be done. We have SOC 2, and we've gone through, we've invested, as being involved with the company very, very heavily in security, privacy, and compliance. We have an incredible group of not just employees, but advisors, consultants that we work with. We've been through like one of the top three title companies in the US, which is a financial institution, has done an assessment on us, their own pen test. AARP has hired external firms to do analysis and check our compliance. And we'd go through this SOC 2 audit every year. In fact, we're in the midst of that right now. So, there's a lot there. But, again, like literally the CISO who built DocuSign from the ground up has been involved with this company from day one as a director in this company. And, that's the level that we've built since day one, knowing our entire strategy is around going through and partnering with businesses.
And from an advisor firm perspective, what education and support do you offer?
I will tell you that is anyone who's known me knows that is absolutely core to who I am and what we do. We know at the end of the day, the consumer is using this. So we have ideas specific to what we call, documents, people, places, and things, the different areas. We have ideas on each of those that are in the product. When you're in the app, on the people section, we say, here's the type of people you think you should add. We have how-to videos within the app, both web and mobile. So it's not like, Rick, great, you have a question. Why don't you go search on YouTube? No, right in front of. How do I import someone from contacts on my phone into the people section? How do I share a document with somebody is in the document section. So all of it is at your fingertips. And then I'm really proud to say, my head of support that built the support for my last company went to DocuSign, was an executive on the support side at DocuSign, is now with me again at this company from day one, and he leads our support. And I'm really, really proud of our support team because I'll tell you, I mean, we care deeply about our customers and we highly value them. And we'll do anything to help our customers succeed, whether it's starting in the product or answering questions, picking up the phone. We do tips and trick webinars. I do 2-minute tips every week on what you could do. I mean, it's all about the consumer experience for us.
I have a couple of questions here that are related. We'll take them one at a time. This attendee says, I'm a financial advisor. What do I tell my clients in regards to making them comfortable with the security and privacy of their information?
So first of all, it's funny. Like the first thing our security advisors told us when we spun up our web page and started putting the things on there, like you can't say you're using this tool because the bad actors will actually look at like what tools do you use. They'll find a vulnerability and then they'll search for companies that use that product and then try and exploit it. So we have to be a bit generic about the tools and technologies that we use on our website. But what I would say to hopefully make people feel comfortable is look at who our advisors are. Look at who our investors are. The National Association of Realtors is an investor. AARP is an investor. The State of Florida Opportunity Fund is an investor. We have groups that have, like one of our investor groups has taken was the founder of a public cybersecurity firm. These are all groups that have done their homework on us. AARP didn't like go lightly and say, oh, we like the name Presidio. We like the concept of a digital vault. We're going to work with them. We went through, this is a 3-year relationship, 2 years of work and analysis, and them hiring third parties to try and hack our environment, us showing them reports, the fact that we work with CISA. There's a lot there, and it's not necessarily a simple question. But if you look at who we're partnered with, I think that speaks volumes about, I mean, AARP is a really trusted, powerful brand. And they've done our homework. I can assure you they've done their homework on us.
Tyler asks, I'm sure you get this a lot, but many of my clients are extremely hesitant, even unwilling, to get a digital vault because literally every important document ends up there in one place. God forbid it gets hacked. My clients are much more comfortable separating the lock from the key. So how do you respond to naysayers like that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm safe with my own vault. I know the security. I have everything in there. In my vault for my family, but I'm also smart about things. Like I have Bitcoin and it's in Coinbase. But I also have I wrote secret passphrase. I literally wrote on a piece of paper, secret passphrase is in the safe. I took a picture of that and scanned it as a document in Presidio. I linked it to a place, which is Coinbase. I linked it to the safe that it's stored, which is also a place. And so I could literally give you access to my digital vault today, Rick, and you still couldn't get access to my Coinbase because, I've figured out how to make sure it's protected. And so, again, there's risk in, having those documents in your house, right? I mean, it could be destroyed. I mean, I live in Naples, Florida. We had Hurricane Ian, and I can tell you right now in May, every newscast, there's stuff about hurricane prep, and there's videos of documents floating in baggies in the water when a hurricane comes by, or a flood, or a tornado. So there's risk everywhere, but I can assure you, like, we're taking the steps to protect your information. We've got the right people behind it, and the key is when you're not in the same place as the documents, you have access. People, you can make sure someone has access to the power of attorney. And then you can make sure everything's successfully transitioned. So there's a lot of value propositions we believe that hopefully help put people's mind at ease that yes, you can put this someplace and keep it safe.
Jason asks, are clients able to upload documents as well as the advisor can? And any limits on what you can upload?
No, so first of all, I can invite anyone into my vault. You can too, and it's free. Anyone you invite, it's not they can add so much and then they have to pay. Anyone you invite to your vault as your co-owner, your key holder, or any advisor is free. Period, always. And then when you invite someone, first of all, they see nothing and they can do nothing until you, as the owner of the vault or your co-owner, like my wife is the co-owner of my vault, either of us can say, Rick can see these 5 documents, these 3 places, these 2 things. And then I can also permission you to either add, edit, or delete content in my vault. But I have to give you that permission, and then I can pull that permission at any time. And then most importantly, and this is really important, you're in control. You always can go back. I can go to Rick in my vault and at any time, anywhere I am, see exactly what you have access to and exactly what you have done. And it's all logged there. Either I can go to the will and see if you have access and if you've looked at it, or I can go to you as my advisor. What do you have access to? What have you looked at? And so again, that secure sharing is a really important component of what we do, and especially above and beyond cloud storage.
How long, I'm looking at the questions we're getting, how long do you find that it typically takes clients to start from scratch and end up with a vault that's got all their documents inside it?
It literally is, if what I say is if you can give us, 10, 15 minutes twice a month within, 6 weeks or so, you'll be really, really impressed with how much you can get in there. And start simple. Who are the key people in your world? Who's your financial advisor, right? Who is your, who is your attorney? Who's your CPA? Who are your family members? Put them in. And by the way, you can literally sit here watching the hockey or baseball game tonight, go add from contacts, ingest them literally right from within the app. If you have stuff in Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, you can add directly from that. And by the way, within this month of May, you will literally be able to say, add from DocuSign, and anything you've signed through DocuSign, you can literally suck directly in, and you could be sitting there watching TV tonight on your patio doing that. And so it's don't look at giving up your weekend. If you want to watch Yellowstone this weekend or Landman, have at it. Just give us 10, 15 minutes here or there. One little thing at a time is the key. And within weeks, you're so much better off.
As the documents come up, as they need to it. You don't have to go spend, hours in the garage sifting through boxes just as the thing comes up.
I mean, I was at Walgreens the other day and I got my tetanus shot. Hadn't had one in a long time. My dad's like, had his physical. He's like, my doctor asked, I hadn't had one. You should go get one. So I got it. I went to Walgreens. I got my tetanus shot. They gave me the piece of paper. I got home, Presidio, add document, scan, picture in, and I now have all my vaccinations, and in a folder in the documents, I have any vitamins I'm taking. And all I did is I wrote on a piece of paper, here's my vitamins. I took a picture, added as a document. So like, we want to make it simple and easy. And the key with our mobile app is you can, as you're thinking about it, do it and then move on. Right. And that's the key.
Glenda asks, would a client be better off doing this with their advisor or going to AARP?
I would say either works. If you, as an advisor, are going to recommend and want to have a relationship with Presidio where we can support you and help your clients, then we can go that direction. But if you have a client that is an AARP member, they literally can go today and they can go to AARP and search Digital Vault, and they'll see AARP Digital Vault, and they can sign up today. And by the way, the AARP Digital Vault, the light, or what they call the essentials package, you can start with for $20 a year.
This is a question. I'm going to summarize it a little bit for clarity. But it's a really good question. You mentioned that you can add anybody you want to your vault, but elaborate on the various levels of permissions that you can give each of these people.
Everybody is different. When you invite someone, again, let me be very clear, they can see and do nothing until you, as the owner of the vault or your co-owner, only those two people, then go and say, I want this person to see this or that, whatever. And again, we make it easy because in most solutions today, like cloud storage, you have to go to John's will and then share it. And then you have to go to Mary's will and share it. And you have to go item by item. We are literally the only solution out there where you can go to Rick, my advisor, see everything, every document, every person, every place, everything, search it, narrow it down, and say, click, click, click. This is what I want.
So give me an idea of what those things are. So I imagine it's the ability to add or remove documents,
Add, edit, and delete. And we even get granular. So I can give you edit permission to anything you have access to, or only things that you've added to my vault. So it's not just like an edit capability. Now, most cases, you're probably going to only give people add permission just to get stuff in. But you could say, well, Rick added this, so I want him to have the ability to edit it. And right, it's not just like the person, it's reminders about that person. We have something where you can relate like the will to the attorney to the place it's stored. You just do 2 clicks, and now you are starting to give the treasure map, not just here's the will, here's the attorney, here's the safe. They're all connected, and here's how. So you have the granularity, again, every person individually, what they see, and then can they add, can they edit, can they delete, and not just edit or delete. Can they delete anything I've given them access to, or only things they themselves have added?
So you mentioned that there are maximum 2 owners. I'm thinking the husband and wife is your thought process there. But they'll have a bunch of kids. But each of those kids can have all of the same rights as the owners if the owners choose to give it to them.
Exactly right.
So it really doesn't matter how many people you have in mind that you want to be included in this exercise. And so is there a limit to that point? Is there a limit to the number of people who can access this vault?
There isn't a technical limit. It's more of what you feel comfortable with. And how many people you really want to share with. But like, my children have access to things like our Disney Plus account. They have access to our estate attorney and financial advisor, so they know who they are, because they can call them. And as soon as they would call our financial advisor would call us and go, why is, John or Mary calling us, right? But they don't have access to our will. They don't have access to certain things. But my oldest daughter is our key holder. So she sees a limited subset of things today. But if I pass, then my wife would get access to everything. And if my wife passes and I pass, then my daughter, as the key holder, once we as a company verify owner and co-owner have passed, then we transition everything to the key holder.
So I'm just going to make up this family tree: husband and wife, 3 children, 2 of whom are married with children. How many vaults should that family buy?
Yeah, so I would say so if I give you my example, I have access to 8 vaults. I can log in one time, and then I can switch between my vault with my wife. Each of my 3 children have vaults and have decided to share certain things in their vault with me today and my wife. I have access to my dad and stepmom's vault. I have access to my mother and father-in-law's vault. I have access to my sister's vault. And each of them I can go into today. Again, I log into Presidio once, and then I can shift into the vault. And when I go into their vault, I only see what they've given me access to. And so we think of it more as a kind of a core family unit. Once, your children get old enough, they'll want their own vault. And then like, we share auto insurance card, dental insurance card. Our youngest is still in college and she is on our insurance. And, so I know when she's at the dentist appointment because I get a notification that says Jillian accessed, dental card
And so the 120 a year is per vault.
per vault. That's correct.
Got it.
And again, not for you and 120 for your co-owner, for the vault. Both like your co-owner is free, your key holder is free, anyone you invite is free, always free. And I saw a question like we don't upsell, it's your information, and from the ground up this is built, it's your information, we're protecting it on your behalf, we're not selling it, we're not selling you. This like that's the core. It's about trust, and we're going to lose trust. We would lose trust instantly if you signed in and then we're like moving van companies and this and that. We don't do that, period.
Corey is an advisor and he asks, how can we use Presidio to improve client retention?
I think it's relationship, right? I mean, it's showing your client, first of all, that you care about them and you understand the value, because what happens is every advisor, every insurance company, every law firm, every accounting firm you work with as a consumer gives you another place. For a wealth advisor to be able to go to the client and say, listen, no, we understand it's about you. I'm going to make your life easier. This is about you. And then you decide what you want to share with me. And then I can put stuff in there so I don't have to email it to you. You can decide what you want to share with me and you can turn it on today and turn it off tomorrow. And then if you brand it, every time your client logs in for anything they do, getting their insurance card, they could see potentially your brand instead of the Presidio brand. It'd be powered by Presidio, but it's a way to have your brand when someone needs an auto insurance card or they want to look up their Disney Plus password.
I'm amazed at how many questions we're getting here. Glenn, it's kind of overwhelming. If we're not going to be able to get to every question before the top of the hour. We will tell you before we're done how you can reach Glenn directly. Little hint: Presidio.com. But Presidio is spelled with an I, P-R-I, Presidio.com, and we'll put that up on the website. We'll try to blow through as many of these as we possibly can. When you let someone or give someone access to your vault, they sign in. There's a password they use. Is that right? They create their own.
A password and multi-factor authentication required. So either Google Authenticator, Microsoft, Okta, a code via text, just like at the big bank you work with. So it's username and password, but also multi-factor. And then the benefit of the phone is, it is the biometrics. You can, if it's fingerprint or looking at it, we use the security of Apple or Google's phone as well for access.
Got it. And Michelle, thank you. She just posted into the chat box the link to Presidio.com, so you can click that link right now and get directly to Glenn. Here's a question: what's the incentive financially or otherwise with AARP?
That's a good question. I'll tell you. It's funny because my board asked me, like, why are you getting such attention from such a well-respected big organization? And they understand, like, they're there to serve their clients. And whether you look at, we're an aging population, right? Within 5 years, more people will be over the age of 65 than under the age of 18 in this country. We're at the start of the largest wealth transfer in history. We have more frequent and severe natural disasters than ever. There are 40-some million caregivers in the country that need to know who's the physician, where's the power of attorney. We're living in a world of identity theft and fraud. All of these are really important drivers that are happening. And by the way, not getting better, but getting worse, and globally. And so there's so much happening that AARP, I think, very intelligently realized that this is a core need across all of the key areas they care about. And they wanted to offer foundation. So I think, we're just a very unique offering that they can provide to their members. And they do this because they see the need and they talk about all these things. But then it's like, I live in Naples, right? What did all these people that lived through these lost their homes in the fire in California or in any house fire or wildfire have to do? What were the contents? I could, in an instant today, I have pictures of every room in my house. I've got a video of every floor attached to my house, my place. I have a reminder set every 6 months. And if I have, God forbid, if there were a hurricane and it destroyed my house, I could share that instantly with an insurance adjuster, right? I mean, so there's so
So
many.
elaborate on that. So you just walk around the house, you take video of each room,
Yeah.
looking at the contents, the artwork, the furniture, the TV and audio, etc., and then you take that video you've recorded and upload it to the vault of Presidio.
No, it's done right through the app. You go into Presidio, go on and say add photo, add video right through the app.
Wow.
So you don't even have to upload it. It just takes it right in there. So you have artwork. You can actually take a picture of the artwork, maybe the artist, or if there's an inscription on the back. You can take a picture of your receipt and the business card of where you bought it from and add those on it. All of those things. Again, it's how do we take advantage of mobile, the camera, the video? And here's a really unique one. And this is, I'd love to say I take credit for this, but my wife would call me on it. But what she's done is a will, really important instrument, right? Dictates who gets what after someone passed. What does it not do? It does not answer the why. So what my wife taught me to do is for every piece of jewelry or purse or item of value, she has a video explaining why it's important to her. And then she has a video for our child, one of our daughters or our son, saying, Jillian, this is important to me. I'm giving this to you because. Now, again, that'll have to be handled through the will. But now my daughter has a record of why was this important to their mother? And why did their mother say this is for you? So it's not just the what, it's the why and the context.
And that is one of the big failings of estate planning, as advisors will attest, is too often heirs get or don't get an inheritance and they don't know the thought process that mom and dad had used, why one might get more money or
Yeah.
less money than another, why one might get a certain sentimental item and another didn't, and so on. So I would put that in the priceless category, for sure.
My dad, this is a true story. My dad's mom died on the birthing table. When he was born,
Mm.
she left this world. My dad had a health scare about 2 years ago, and I was sitting in the hospital with him, and he said, "Do you know what the most important thing I have physically is?" And I was like, I had no clue. And he said, "It's a hope chest." And I said, "Huh, what's a hope chest?" And he said, that piece of furniture in the house, blah, blah, blah. Well, I can go into Presidio, switch to my dad's vault. As a thing, he has a picture of this hope chest, and he put a value on it of $1 million, which is wonderful. But he also has a video in his words sitting next to the hope chest, opening it, saying, "This is why it's important to me. This is why it's a family heirloom." And he walks through, this is my mom's picture from her high school yearbook. This is my mom's wedding ring. My dad's face, emotions, voice on that. And he shared that with me today. He didn't have to, he could have shared it after his death, but we now know, my brother and sister and I know what this is, why it's a value. And if we didn't, that would have been in the garbage or sold for $1 at a garage sale.
Like I said, priceless. We're coming down to the wire here, so I want to just let you know that there are so many more questions here we haven't gotten to. All of them are brilliant, need to be asked, need to be answered. Glenn will be happy to do that. There's a tremendous opportunity here if you are an individual investor thinking about this kind of thing. Go to AARP or go to Presidio directly. If you're a financial advisor, you really should be talking with Presidio because there can be a tremendous amount of value add that I think you would find terrific as a way to enhance your client relationship and make those assets stickier. I think that's a big argument for an advisory firm to build this internally as opposed to simply referring to AARP so that
Yeah.
you're involved in this in that extent. So I would strongly recommend that. As we had mentioned, you can access um, Glenn at Presidio. We've got the page right up there on the screen for you, presidio.com, and I encourage you to do that. I also want to tell you really quickly in our final minute that we have a couple of additional webinars coming up. May 13th, a better bond ladder. Bonds are a big conversation today. Bond laddering is a smart way to do it, and most are going about it inefficiently. We're going to tell you a new way to generate peace of mind and stable monthly income for your clients in a totally new and innovative way. I was just talking to Bob Bassani about this on CNBC on Monday. And then on Tuesday, May 20th, why there's never been a better time to buy Bitcoin. We're going to talk about the great de-risking. And if you are interested in crypto, I encourage you to come to our annual crypto conference called Vision. It's the oldest, longest running crypto event exclusively for financial advisors and accredited investors. U.S. Senator Bernie Moreno will be our keynote, along with Catherine Molnar, the CIO of the Fairfax County Pension Program. So I encourage you to come and check that out. If you want our toolkits on Bitcoin and Ethereum, there's the QR code for you to be able to access that content. And be sure to read my book, the #1 Amazon bestseller, The Truth About Crypto. Glenn Shimkus, thank you so much for being with us here today. This was terrific information. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of contact from folks who are watching this.
And I'm happy to answer any questions. And I've been looking through the questions. They're all really good questions, important questions. Happy to reply to emails, answer them directly, have a scheduled time for a conversation. What I would say in closing is, like, this is my area of expertise. I've been helping companies and now individuals my entire career. This is too important an area, whether it's Presidio. I think we've built the best solution out there. Industry leaders, I think, are validating that, but it's important. Like, help remind your clients and yourselves personally, even as individuals and family members, make sure your information is together, protected, accessible, whether it's today, during an emergency, or upon your passing, and do something.
And now I think you get an understanding of why I'm both a customer of Presidio as well as an investor. Glenn, thanks so much. Always good to see you, my friend. Everybody, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time.